G'day guys, this is Ellis Gelios coming to you live for the Purebred Reds Adelaide United Fan TV. We are on the rather unpredictable tram line back to the CBD from Cooper's Stadium on Port Road, where Adelaide United have just drawn 2-2 against the Western Sydney Wanderers. An interesting kind of game. I wouldn't say anyone had the better of it in the first half, but then obviously a late penalty. Nathan Constant fouls the Wanderers player, and they score from the resulting spot kick to go 1-0 ahead into the break. Now I'm going to say this: Nathan Constantopoulos has played barely any first team football all season, so I'm not going to go in with my pitchfork sharpened and completely have a go at him. But Nathan Constantopoulos, it's a pretty safe penalty in the end. I don't think anyone was really voicing too much concern about the legitimacy of whether it was a foul or not inside the box. We've gone 1-0 down, and then second half commences. Immense amount of character shown from the team to actually get themselves 2-1 up with about half an hour left to play. Nikola Miljuznic, wow. He's basically had the worst game of his life last round in the A-League, and he comes up with scoring a brace on this occasion. Does this warrant a start from now on? I'm very interested to hear your thoughts. It doesn't feel like over the course of the entire game he's contributed to a whole lot of attacking periods for Adelaide, but at the end of the day he scored 2 goals, and without his presence in the starting 11 today, we arguably wouldn't have even gotten a point from it. So is it a concern that somehow the FA Cup champions, it's not taking a whole lot for someone to come straight into the starting 11? Given that Nikola hasn't played a whole lot this season, I want to know your thoughts. But look, when someone comes up and scores 2 goals in a game that you really can't say would have looked good for us to have not taken at least a point, you can't really fault someone for coming up with the goods in that respect. So it's great for Nikola that he's gone and scored the 2 goals, but between now and what looks like a really busy period in the A-League, we've got Wellington Phoenix next up at home, and Melbourne Victory after that, and then before those 2 games there's a trip to Sydney FC. I'll tell you what, again, it just looked like tonight a lot of square balls, where if there was a clear number 9 in the attacking 3 for Adelaide, it would have finished in a goal, and obviously it just hurts us to not have that number 9. How crucial is January? Do you see this club being adventurous throughout January or not? We hear a few different rumours on the occasion. Not Bruno Fornaroli, the Sydney FC striker. Remind me who he was. Bobo, that's the one. That's my cameraman there, Reece, providing the goods there. Like I said, guys, there's rumours that we might bring in a striker in January. There's talk about Borussia as well, but I think we know that that's not going to happen, given that Melbourne City went in for him, and obviously they're far more financially equipped and better resourced than we are, and he said no to them, so I doubt he's going to come to another Victory rival that isn't anywhere near as well resourced. Is Adelaide United in a position to attract some kind of attacking quality in January? Really need that classic target man that can knock the ball down and start something somewhere for the team as we go forward, because the number 9 position, the fact that it's completely vacant at the moment, there is talk that George Blackwood will be fit sometime within the next couple of weeks. Whether it's next week or not, I don't know, but can we rely on a 20-something-year-old coming up with the goods when he's been injured for so many weeks now? Or do we really need to go out and buy a striker? I think going forward, Wellington Phoenix is going to be a really interesting game. It's a completely new dynamic. We've never seen a Wellington side in the history of the A-League be this competitive, and we're generally quite used to beating Wellington at home in the A-League quite convincingly. I don't think that's going to be the case. They're resolute, they're disciplined, and they're organised under Mark Root and the new coach this year. And I think if we underestimate them, it's going to be to our own downfall. And so I'd really sort of welcome us to be cautioned approach for that game. But I want to know what you guys think. It's a home game. We've got 2 home games coming up after Sydney FC away, which is on the 31st, I think. Do we have enough in our lockers to beat Sydney away? Don't see how it's going to happen. We sort of saw a bit of a poor run of form from them, but they've turned it around in the last week against the opposition that we played just tonight. And obviously not forgetting Western Sydney had players out tonight as well, so something else to bear in mind. I'm really not sure where things are going to go for us from this point. We're in this position where we're sitting at mid-table, but I mean, it might take one result to completely unravel us, and then you get a poor run, which worries me, I have to say. What I want to ask, so Marco Kurz took Ken Ilso off as soon as that red card happened, essentially straight after the goal from Western Sydney. Now Ken Ilso is, let's not forget, he's a visa player, he's a number 10. If there was ever a half of football where he's going to stand up and show us why we've brought him to the club, it should have probably been tonight. If he's serious about being here for more than a holiday. Now Marco Kurz to the defence of Ken Ilso has dragged him almost immediately. Does that say something about what's going on behind the scenes and the fact that Marco Kurz doesn't particularly rate Ken Ilso in the number 10 spot? That worries me as well, because irrespective of what I think about Ken Ilso, that midfield is really thin at the moment, and in a game that was at home where we probably had the upper hand right up until the Jordan Ellis red card, I thought we're in a good position to come away with the 3 points. So I really would have liked to have seen Ken Ilso in that predicament where it's a case of we're at home, the onus is on us to attack. What's he got to show for us, and bringing him here, and what's he got to show as a defence for the fact that some people have called him out on whether he's truly of the quality that it takes to be a number 10 in the A-League. Now, Reece, just want to bring you into this quickly. So Jordan Ellis red card. I've asked a few people in the fan cams, which will be out very soon, whether there needs to be a few questions about Jordan Ellis. He had a really poor game last time out against Melbourne City, and he's gotten himself sent off today against Wellington Phoenix. We didn't, to be fair to either of us, we didn't really get a good view of whether it was an elbow to the face or whatever the foul was that constituted the red card. But if it was a genuine red card, do we need to be questioning whether Jordan Ellis needs to be taking more account of his actions in the last couple of weeks with Adelaide United? He's a leader, and he's got massive raps on him, and 2 poor games from him. What do you think?
I'll start off by saying there's not too many Adelaide United players I want to succeed as much as Jordan Ellis, but I mean he's not 19 anymore. He's 24, 23, 20 something. So
25,
and he's been around for a minute now. So he does need to wear responsibility. And he might not be a senior player in terms of age, but in terms of how long he's been at the club, and he's at the same time being from Adelaide, he's a role model. So he does have a big responsibility, and the last 2-3 weeks haven't been amazing for him. So maybe a red card is a good opportunity to give a few other people a go and see how it goes from there.
Nikola Miljuznic with a crucial brace for the club tonight. He had a really poor game last time out, and he's come along and scored 2 goals against Western Sydney tonight. Do we need to pay more attention to the mental resilience that he's shown after being dragged at half-time last week against Melbourne City in what was one of the worst individual displays I've seen by an Adelaide United player, Reece?
Absolutely. I think I said to you when I saw the starting lineup, great to see him starting. He must have trained the house down during the week, because we all saw how subpar he was last week. And to respond like that, that's massive. What more can you do?
Just got a few comments I want to pay tribute to. So Damien Master 5, who's actually a massive fan of the club, probably the closest thing we have to like a real hardcore UK fan, he's made a few comments. So he says, in the first half, Adelaide United should have been winning 2-0. Don't disagree with you there, Damien, at all. And he also says it's his birthday in the next home game. So hopefully the club gets around him and sends out a bit of a Damien Master 5 happy birthday message, because if anyone has stuck on board as persistently as he has with a team that hasn't really been that consistent since last winning the championship, it's Damien Master 5. George Laparita says first half a disgrace, second half impressive. Peter Green needs a week off. The referee, Peter Green. Did you find any calls that were made by Peter Green a bit of a subject of controversy tonight, Reece, or was he not the main topic of discussion coming out of that game?
Look, whenever we don't win, the ref's usually at fault. No, I'm kidding. No, I mean, you can't blame the referee. As you said, I didn't have a great look at the red card, but I thought the penalty was a penalty, and I look forward to seeing the highlights, let's put it that way.
So George says the first half was a disgrace, second half impressive. We went 2-1 up, but outside of that 10 minutes where we went ahead and really tried to throw something at the Wanderers, did you see much of a noticeable difference in both of those halves, or is George on the money? What do you think?
I see what George is saying. Shout out to George. But again, we just look so toothless up front. So until we have someone who looks like scoring a goal, we can have as much of the ball and as many chances as we want. But to me, it's not good enough.
So Reece, I just want to quickly ask you, Ryan Strain. He's still getting a lot of minutes at the moment. Definitely a player that wears his heart on his sleeve, but in terms of what he offers going forward, I still don't think that's particularly clear cut, and I feel like he's just a real favourite of Marco Kurz and gets a minute here and there, even when it's not really warranted, perhaps. Do you think Ryan Strain has done enough this season to warrant at least getting a half here and there, particularly when we really need people standing up? Or what do you think of Ryan Strain? Do you think he sort of needs a few more games in the reserves to really convince us of what he offers going forward? Because obviously he's progressing like he's the type of player that can pretty much fill in anywhere. Or would you have looked to maybe just giving one of the younger kids in the youth team who looks kind of raw talent-wise, but just saying, hey, here's a challenge. We're 1-0 down at half-time, or it's 1-0. Show us what you've got. You've been performing in the youth league lately.
No, I think you definitely throw him on the bench. He's obviously a capable right back, capable winger. Whether he's good enough to start is another question, but to have a player on the bench who can play multiple positions like that is pretty invaluable. So I can see why that's the case. Whether he's starting, that's another question. So we'll have to wait and see. He's only young.
Yeah, Wellington Phoenix next up, like I've touched on. Mark Rudin has really gotten this team organised, and if you can say anything about Wellington Phoenix this time round as opposed to previous years, it's the fact that you can definitely identify that there's a desire there that has been completely non-existent throughout the last few years of their history. Are they going to come here and give us another serve in regards to the fact that they've really surprised lately in their last few games? Or do you see that record, that daunting Wellington record in Adelaide, coming back to haunt them in our next game on the 5th of January?
Hey, they're full of pace up front, and we're not full of pace at the back. I'm legitimately worried, that we could get embarrassed or found out. So, fingers crossed.
We're very much near the January transfer window opening. I want to know from you guys whether it's more crucial that we look at replacing Ken Ilso in some kind of way, because he is the creative midfielder at the moment that isn't really coming up with the performances that are required, or do you just say, well, look, our number 9s in Bubba Diawara and George Blackwood aren't proving to be fit on enough occasions where they're crucially needed, and Apostolos is still very young, so you can't rely on Apostolos Stamatolopoulos. Is it more crucial that we sign a clear defined number 9 in January, or do you look at doing something with the number 10 role and relying on Ken Ilso to continue to be the kind of utility that he is? Reece, what do you reckon?
For me, we've got to get a 10 in. There's plenty of one of those 3 injured. number 9's, he's got to come back and has to do well. In terms of the depth in that 10 role, it's not the same. So for me, it's got to be 10.
Mark Claridge disagrees with you, Reece. He says get a striker. Mark, I can understand your frustrations. It definitely feels like this team is being hindered week in, week out, particularly on the away days where you feel like, if there's a striker there, we get a point. But, going back to Melbourne victory, we lost that game 2-0, and you look at all the chances that fell the way of Halloran and Apostolos as well, and you think if there was a clear number 9 there, they would have put those chances away and would be in a better position right now. Not that I want to hang anything on players that clearly aren't strikers that are being utilised as strikers at the moment in the team. But I completely sympathise with the fact that fans are frustrated and they want the club to do something in January. I've heard a mixture of different things. I've heard from various sources that there aren't the required funds within the club to go out and be ambitious. At the same time, I've heard that the club is looking at something, whether it's bringing a player from China or looking at a diamond in the rough, or bringing someone in for 6 months and seeing how they go, and then giving them a longer term deal based on whether they've been good enough in the small contract that they've gotten. I've heard a number of different things. I'm not sure which way it's going to go. Mark Claridge again says none of the strikers are ever fit. We put the balls in the box, no one to put it in the net. Is that blunt but accurate, Reece? Or do you think he's being a little bit, not harsh, but asking a bit much of players who just don't play there often enough to be expected to score goals, week in, week out?
No, Mark's spot on. I know how you feel, Mark. Believe me, it's been 4, 5, 6, 9 years, 10 years. I don't even know how long. It's been too long
since 2003.
Since we've had a proper number 9. So I feel you, Mark.
All right, well, this is our stop, so we're going to get off, but the video is going to keep rolling. So if anyone's got any questions, please feel free to ask. Like I've gone on and said, Adelaide United are drawn 2-2 at home against the Wanderers. Really not the kind of result that we would have liked. Now, Reece made a really good point a little while before full time, which is that if we've got all these home games coming up in the next few weeks, Reece, at least in the next fortnight, you've got Wellington and Victory to worry about at home. It feels like in that real congested period towards March and on the cusp of the playoffs that we're going to have a lot of tough away games potentially. I don't have the fixture list here with me to refer to, but we've certainly played a lot more home games than away games thus far. Do you feel like tonight is potentially definitive in where we finish this season, or can we recover from this, and can we at least, when the likes of Blackwood and Bubba start getting fit, come up at home and win the games we're expected to win?
I mean, to me, if we're picking up or settling for single points at home now, we have to at least be getting single points away later. Like, we can't afford to be writing off away games to Western Sydney and the like. So, we've put the pressure on ourselves, but we've made our bed, so now we've got to lie in it.
I just want to give a quick shout out to all the Red Army tonight. Fantastic support as per usual. Hot day, and it's always easier to go away and book plans with the family around this time of the year, but all the regular suspects from the Red Army out in force tonight, and really making a difference and trying to be that 12th man. The club sincerely owes the Red Army week in, week out, and again, a great job from them. And all fans that brave the heat tonight to come out and watch Adelaide United against Western Sydney on Boxing Day. Western Sydney Wanderers, for them, I find that this might be the kind of result that sort of annoys them a lot. Marcus Babbel, we see how easily he can get triggered. 10 men, should they be winning here tonight? Especially when we don't have our best cattle there to choose from. I'd say probably, but at the same time, a point away from home when you've come to Adelaide, historically a team that always performs quite well at home. Probably not the worst result from them. And just a shout out as well to Bruce Kamau. He got a bit of stick tonight, Bruce. Let's not forget that he scored the first goal for us in a championship deciding grand final. You know, that's a pretty big deal for us Adelaide fans, and we don't want to criticise him too much, even though he has moved on from the club. So in the future, I don't want to see people giving as harsh treatment to Bruce Kamau as what I heard within some sections of the crowd tonight. I think that's he's a South Australian boy, and I think that's pretty disrespectful. He did a fair bit for the club in the very short period of time that he played for us. So a quick shout out to him and the rest of the Adelaide boys that came tonight. Tarek Elrich is another one. Did get substituted with about half an hour or 20 minutes to go, and again I heard more boos than cheers, and I just think we're classier than that as a supporter base. Tarek Elrich, let me tell you, given the circumstances of what he had to deal with when he first came to Adelaide, he did a hell of a lot for this club. He's a championship player, and you know, not only did coming to Adelaide revive his career, but he gave so much back to this club as well. So I think we're a classier fan base than that. I don't want to see people booing club legends, particularly those that have helped us win a championship in the past. And let's not forget, Western Sydney have not won a A-League championship. So you know, there's a lot to be thankful there for the fact that Tarek Elrich spent so long here on a minimum wage as well, and I think it's disrespectful for fans to just boo for the sake of booing, just because he's not wearing an Adelaide shirt anymore. Don't have a short memory. He did a lot for the club. Reece, any other comments that you want to add just before we wrap up tonight?
No, that's it for me. 3 points next week, 3 points Melbourne, and 6 points, so we're back on track. Anything less is disappointing.
Well, you've heard it all from us. We're about to drown our sorrows at the Austral after not winning a game that we really hoped we could have won. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll be back definitely for the Melbourne victory game. I personally won't be able to due to some pre-planned travel. I'll be missing the Wellington game, but we've really enjoyed bringing you coverage from tonight at Cooper Stadium, where Adelaide United unfortunately did not get all 3 points. But look, it's not the end of the world, Reece, is it?
I feels like it.
Hopefully we bounce back against Wellington on the 5th of January at Cooper Stadium again. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and a quick shout out to Harry Mitchell, great lad. He says, well said regarding Tarek and Bruce. I agree with you, mate, you're a legend. Thanks for tuning in to all Purebred Reds fans. Look out for the fan cams, they're coming out real soon. And have a great night and have a safe and happy new year. Thanks a lot, guys. Cheers.